Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid the Kid. My partner, Miss Lakeena McGee, will be joining me shortly. But for the time being, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you go to the Google Play Store, wherever you get your apps. And make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. So make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today. You can catch all the other live shows that we have aired throughout the week, including Sean the Mind in the morning. This show, Second City Sports. What's up, cousin? Tomorrow, the Smoke Fellas will be carrying you through your Saturday. So make sure you check all those shows out anytime you want. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can catch us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this broadcast, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's War Media Podcasts. And we are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of War Media, you can follow us on all social media platforms at WARR Media. Once again, at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Sorry, folks, for the tardiness. Of course, it took me forever to open StreamYard up, so sorry, but I'm here now, so it is what it is. But yeah, you can follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena McGee on the IG. What's up, Brandon? How are you? And hey guys, what's up, Lamont? So let's just get right to it because we got a lot to do today. We're going to talk about the opening day in baseball. We're going to have WGN TV's Larry Holly at the top of the hour to talk, a little bit of everything. Bulls and their playoff chances. Cubs and Sox, and also too, like, you got the Final Four coming up down in Houston, tomorrow. So also, there's so much stuff to do. So yeah, so let's get right to it. So to talk some baseball. We'll start with the White Sox. The White Sox got a nice win against the defending champion Astros.
Yay!
Well, yeah, thanks to a two-run single by Andrew Vaughn. But look, I mean, they had the same problem that they had last year. Look, Dylan Cease pitched a gem. They left about 9 guys on base and such. So in this case, the Sox were able to get out of it. Pedro Fulkus is first win as a manager. So, Sid, what did you think about that win? For the Sox?
Yeah, Dylan Cease picked off where he left off last year. He struck out 7 guys through 3 innings. That was very impressive. And he was really attacking the zone last night, especially on the outer half of the corners. I really paid attention to his pitch count. Remember, Lakeena, I was one of the few that was harping about this last year. Remember, he had the problems like Carlos Rodon did during his first few years in the White Sox uniform. You would get to 100 pitches, but you only pitched 4.5, 5 innings, in which you had to come out in the 5th to 6th innings of ball games. Last night, that didn't happen. I know some people it was a little controversial where he should have been left in there in that 7th inning or not. He left the game with 86 pitches, but he pitched his tail off last night. He was very selective within the strike zone. His breaking ball was superb last night, especially the slider to get those batters out, in particular Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker and Jeremy Pena, who was last year's World Series MVP. So he attacked the zone. Those Houston Astros hitters didn't know what to do. Now, on the flip side for the White Sox offense, I know some people said it looked just like last year, hitting for singles and blah, blah, blah. Remember, folks, the Houston Astros are one of the better defensive teams in the league. They know how to play the White Sox. You cannot give up any doubles, any hits toward the gap, because these guys can take advantage of it. You didn't see that last night until you mentioned the 9th inning where Andrew Vaughn had to go ahead 2-run double to put the White Sox ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, they left a lot of guys on base. They left like 9 guys on base. There were some running errors too. I mean, Grandal made kind of like a silly, well, actually it was McCollum that made that silly mistake, but they were able to get out of that. And Cease got a couple of jams too. The Sox, I mean, the Astros, they also had guys on base. They weren't able to capitalize. So look, I think the Sox were able to. Yes, they showed some of the same signs that they did last year. Leaving runners on, scoring, on base. All the defensive error, well, not errors, but defensive mishaps, if you will, but
Mhm.
look, they did just enough to win that game. So look, it was a nice win for the Sox because the defending champions. Look, they got the best of them and whatnot. So but look, they got another one tonight. You got Lance Lynn hoping to have that. He had a great showing in the World Baseball Class, so he hope he can bounce. He can have a list. Build off that, and also go Christian Javier. So that should be a fun one tonight.
Yeah, give Framber Valdez credit too for pitching a heck of a game for the Astros last night. Remember, Lakeena, we were bringing up his name for Cy Young. I know he finished, I believe, fifth in the voting last year. Remember, he had that streak of, I believe, it was 25 straight starts with quality starts. That means pitching 6 innings or more. And he did that last year for the Astros. Everybody was talking about Justin Verlander when he was with the Astros last year, and Dylan Cease being at the top of the list for the AL Cy Young. We talked about Framber Valdez last night. He picked up where he left off as well. And so the only person, the White Sox lineup didn't do too bad. The only person that didn't get a hit was your boy Eloy, going 0 for 5. But other than that, Valdez pitched a heck of a game for the Astros last night. And there, you could complain about their offense too, but Dylan Cease was just that much more dominant.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They can bid off that tonight. Now going to the north side. Marcus Stroman, of course, had that was the opening day starter. Had a solid showing, 6 innings, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts, just 3 walks as the Cubs shut out the Brewers 4-0. Dansby Swanson got his first home run as a Cub. So it was really the offense, also to the defense too for the Cubs. Stroman got into some jams himself, but they were able to get out of that. So yeah, it was a solid showing by the Cubs, and it looked 6 hits. Basically all you can ask for if you're a Cubs fan.
Yeah, I watched some of that game yesterday, and Marcus Stroman. Well, I'm sure we'll get into some of this as the show goes on, but the pitch clock rule. Marcus Stroman
Mhm.
almost missed it a couple of times. One sequence, it was like 6 seconds left on the clock. I was like, "You're not delivering the ball, man. At least start your motion." But he did, and he got out of it, and everything was fine with him. But he attacked the zone again yesterday, Lakeena. We talked about the Brewers last year, just like the White Sox. They have problems scoring, more so the Brewers than the White Sox. But the Brewers don't scare you offensively. And Corbin Burns, we talked about before, Lakeena, we did our previews with Christine Manica a couple weeks ago. He lost his arbitration cases. Now he wants to prove that he's worthy of a big contract. Yesterday, it didn't happen because, like you mentioned, the Cubs took advantage of his mistakes. But Marcus Stroman pitched a heck of a game yesterday. Hopefully, if you're a Cubs fan, he gets to stay healthy all year, unlike last year. And he really has dominant stuff, and he showed that yesterday. And the Cubs, as we talked about as well, Lakeena, leading up to the season opener yesterday, is going to be a challenge at times, especially with Seiya Suzuki being out to start the year. He'll probably be back by the end of April, early May, hopefully. But it's going to be a challenge for them to score. And the way they have to score, at least right now, you have to take advantage of the other team's mistakes.
Yeah, well, and I saw Strawman. I forgot. I don't know if that was Willie Contreras, Wilson's brother, or it might have been Yelich. But yeah, that pitch clock, I think that almost kind of got Stroman, but he almost got called
Mhm.
for it twice. So that the pitch clock, although the game itself only lasts about a little over 2.5 hours, so
Yeah,
that kind of
222.
yeah. So just a nice little sort of wobble there, but I think look, if you're the Cubs, I think look, Trey Mancini, who you picked up, had a couple of RBIs. Young Gomes had an RBI as well. So look, if you're the Cubs, I think this is sort of a nice showing. Dansby Swanson, who he's making over 100, and 20 million. You gotta think that that definitely helps them as well. He made a couple of defensive stops too. Yeah, so if you're a Cubs, this is like a really good start. So they don't play again until tomorrow. So, but yeah, I think this is sort of like a nice showing for the Cubs. It went perfectly. The game was under 2.5 hours. So I think, look, if you're one of those, I think you're kind of feeling pretty good right now. If you're a Cubs fan, at least right now.
Yes, and also, let's give credit to the Cubs bullpen, Boxberger, Keegan Thompson, and Michael
Hmm.
Fulmer. It looks like he's going to be their main closer for now. David Ross may still go by a closer by committee in some
Hmm.
situations in some games, but the Cubs bullpen did the job yesterday. And if you're a Cubs fan, you definitely had to be proud of that. I know it's just one game, but you had to be proud of what happened yesterday, trying to close out the Brewers, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, they'll be back in action tomorrow as Brandon Woodruff faces Justin Steele, so that should be a fun matchup. There is a second seed sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Cindy Brown with you. We're going to be talking baseball for a little bit, and this segment, and then we'll switch over to the NBA. We'll of course have Larry Holly about 1 o'clock to talk about basically everything. Also to his marathons and his love of beer, as we'll talk about here. But what impressed you this past opening day? There were some really great performances last night.
Adam Wainwright, the starting pitcher for the St. Louis
Yeah,
Cardinals. I didn't know he could blow. No pun
right.
intended. That means singing in the community. But I digress. But I didn't know he had little pipes in a little bit. I'm not saying he's the next Teddy Pendergrass or anything like that, but he could carry a tune a little bit. He did the national anthem yesterday before their season opener against the Blue Jays. I actually had a chance to watch some of that live. I was like, okay, like he got a little something, as the kids would say. But once the game began, the Toronto Blue Jays bats woke up and they beat the Cardinals 10-9. Also, too, yesterday, Lakeena, I had and I know this game was on nationally on MLB Network with their crew, but the San Francisco Giants got shut out by the New York Yankees
Saw
five to
that.
nothing. Eric Jones, first, I think it was the second pitch in the first inning, home run. So he picked up where he left off last year when he hit 62 home
Mm-hmm.
runs.
Yeah, also too, Garrett Cole picked up where he left off too. 11 strikeouts,
Mm-hmm.
only 2 walks, no earned runs. So I think that's like a record for an opener with the Yankees, or at least among the top with the openers. So I think if you're feeling pretty good if you're the Yankees. I mean, hoping to kind of sort of make get that disappointment from last year out of the way. But another team that really impressed me was I gotta say Texas. I mean, they held off the Phillies 11-7. Some people would say that maybe Texas could be perhaps maybe a wild card contender, in the AL. I mean, look, they got the raw man, but it'll be interesting what they do with that, because we'll see if they can do the consistency. We know that they got a lot of young players. They got Corey Seager, who had a couple of hits, and um and I think that they got a nice draw. Jonah Him had a couple of RBIs for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just to see how the Rangers are going to be this year, because a lot of people think they could be the breakout team.
Yeah, the Rangers they have the offense, but will they have enough starting pitching? That's been the kind of the history of the track record, at least over the last 20, 25 years. I know they have the new manager, Bruce Bochy, but we'll see if they have enough starting pitcher. Jacob DeGrom didn't look that hot yesterday. Either starting pitcher, Aaron Nola on the flip side for Philadelphia, they didn't look
Right.
that hot yesterday. And the roof was open too at Globe Life Park outside of Dallas. So that was a contributing factor as well, as Texas scored 9 runs in the fourth inning to break that one open. I want to talk about another game real quickly, Ken. I know we run up against it. We have a couple minutes left, but Shohei Ohtani, he kept the Angels in it
Mm-hmm.
last night, but they lost to Oakland 2-1.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say the Angels are going to turn around. I'm not going to say it's doom or gloom either, but if you're going to offensively give bad effort like that when Otani's on the mound, you're in trouble if you're the
Yeah,
Angels.
yeah, I think you're taking advantage of that. He struck out 10. I'm talking about Otani, but the
Mm-hmm.
offense didn't help him, unfortunately. So I know he's going to be the subject of trade rumors too. These next couple of months, especially if they have a bad start that people are predicting. So that's
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna be a name that's gonna be look out for, because you're wasting his talent in a place where they're not really, are kind of not gonna want to win. So definitely, but he's still bringing records and such, so he could perhaps maybe go for a Cy Young, which that would be pretty impressive as well. The Dodgers looked good, 8-2 with a win over the D-backs. I mean, that might, like I said, I mean, basically, I think the Dodgers, I think they have a lot to prove as well. They're kind of on a mission too,
Mm-hmm.
so they may want to try to kind of get that. Well, Julio Urias had a solid outing yesterday. He had 8 strikeouts, so so I'm 6 strikeouts, I should say, so only 2 earned runs, but it was really the offense that kind of helped them out.
Your Seattle Mariners tie France with a 3-run home run last night in the
Yeah.
bottom of the eighth to clinch
Hmm.
it. As the Mariners beat the Cleveland Guardians 3-0. If you're a Sox fan, you're very happy about that, even though it's just one game. Seattle picked up where they left off last year as well. I know their season ended up horribly in the playoffs last year, losing to the Guardians, but the Mariners just find ways to get it done once again in the late innings.
Yeah, the pitch clock definitely helped, because I think a couple of times, I think one of the relievers, the guards relievers, they got calls. That's why they were able to, score that, three. France was able to hit that 3-run home run. So, yeah. I mean, look, I think it was a solid opening day. Like I say, Adam Ray Wright singing. I didn't have that in my bingo card, so that was. But even
Yeah.
with the pitch clock, too. I mean, I know we got to take a break, but it was 10-9. The Blue Jays beat the Cardinals, but it didn't feel like a long game. I think the game itself only lasted about like 2 hours and like 40 some minutes. So it didn't really feel like a long game. So, maybe the pitch clock and some of the other rules changes might have helped a little bit. So, but we'll see as we get closer and closer. Go closer and closer. We get far into the season.
Yeah, I got a question for our listeners and viewers, and for you, Lakeena, regarding the pitch clock and the timing of these games before we move on to the NBA. And I think I have an interesting theory behind it as well. So we'll sort that out, and then we'll get into the rest of the Bulls and the NBA as the regular season winds down less than 2 weeks from now.
All right, so we're gonna do a really quick break, of course, as we get we'll talk more MLB. I don't want to go too long into it because a lot of stuff happened in NBA over the week, this week. So I want to kind of get into that. So we have a lot to do still, in this great show of ours in the next less than 90 minutes. Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Sexy Sports on Sports Social Chicago. More MLB and NBA talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Fun Friday Fun edition, right here in real live and living color on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, and McGee is going to be on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left of this program. We call a Sports Talk Radio Show Extravaganza. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing in questions or comments in the comments section, Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. One more question about baseball, Lakeena, before we move on quickly. Looking at some of the times of these games from yesterday, from opening day, you mentioned the Cubs, 2 hours and 22 minutes. I know the Sox were barely over 2 hours and 35 or 38 minutes, I believe. And some of these other games had around the same time. I was thinking about this yesterday. You know, with the MLB up Fox schedule, they start tomorrow. Of course, you got Yankees, Giants at 3 o'clock, Philadelphia and Texas for everybody else in the country. That's tomorrow on Fox. But, you know, some of those bigger matchups on ESPN and Fox coming up later in the season, especially with Yankees, Red Sox. Do you really want those games to end in 2.5 hours? I know we want to see things quick to eliminate some of the dead time, but some of those games, barely 2 hours and 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I think some of these networks may start complaining because they have at least 3 hours that they bought and paid for to fill. Do you really want your marquee matchups to end in 2.5 hours? I think by the end of the year, you're going to see the average between 240, 245, maybe even 250. But if you're watching Yankees and Red Sox and the game starts at 6:15 and the game doesn't go off till 8:30, do you really, if you're the networks, you really want those games to end that quickly?
Well, I mean, look, I think if it's exciting, I think it won't matter. Like especially if the Yankees or Red Sox. You look at the Red Sox Orioles game. I want to give a shout out to Ali Rooshman, who a lot of people say could be an AL MVP candidate. He's the first player to go 5 for 5. He had like about 5 RBIs yesterday as the Royals held off the Red Sox. Now, I will say this as far as the time, I mean, 4 RBIs, I should say, a rush man. But yeah, I mean, as far as the time, I mean, I don't think it really matters if you're the networks. I mean, yeah, you got 3 hours. Well, that's just more, more time to show A-Rod and Big Poppy on your pre and post game show. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I know, this is the reason why they did this is because of they want to kind of give that extra time and such. Look, a lot of young people are not watching baseball like that. So, people want, fast pace, the attention spans are not like they used to be. So look, if a network game is only 2.5 hours, 2:45, okay, fine, whatever, bring it on.
But if it's 222, 225, I think those networks are going to have a problem. But like you say, we still filling out this process. This is going to be an adjustment for fans to attending these games, and of course, your show is going to start doing it coming up very soon. But I think if we're going to keep seeing this trend going, that the games end too quick, especially for those national television games, these networks going to have to are going to speak loudly and say something about it. But like we said, it's early in the process. We'll see what happens. But that was just kind of my crazy thoughts that were going through my mind yesterday. So I kind of like to bring these things out to you in the public.
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't, I don't like the 3.5 hours, so I can see why they did this. So, but they works, so they'll let them have to figure out. So I'm sure they'll know that this stuff will happen. But we'll see what happens. And I'm going into the schedule for tonight. You got, of course, only 5 games, because some of these are 4-game series. You got the Mets and of course the Marlins at 5:40. You got Daniel Peterson against Jesus Luzardo. Of course, we talked about the Sox and the Astros. They're game 2. Lance Lynn against Christian Javier. Rockies and Padres. We got Kyle Freeland against Nick Martinez. Of course, Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. This game will be streamed on ESPN Plus. Merrill Kelly versus Dustin May. Guardians and the Mariners. You got Hunter Gaddis against Robbie Ray. Those are your matchups for Sunday.
Your national TV schedule for baseball looks like this tomorrow as the MLB on Fox will make its season debut for 2023. Most of the country, I believe here in Chicago as well, will get the San Francisco Giants taking on the New York Yankees. That's at 3:05 Central Standard Time. Others will see the Philadelphia Phillies take on the Texas Rangers. And that's for the rest of the country. And your Sunday night baseball game of the week for ESPN at Sunday at 6 p.m. will feature the Philadelphia Phillies and the Texas Rangers. Apple TV Plus and Peacock Sunday morning game of the week. Those networks will debut their broadcast schedules next weekend.
I also saw on ESPN Plus, of course, the Giants, the rubber match of the Giants Yankees series will be on ESPN Plus at 12:35. And those are some of your schedule for MLB to start off this weekend. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. We're going to start go over towards the hardwood now. We're going to talk some NBA. The Bulls go over against both LA teams. On Wednesday, we said this would happen. LeBron and AD and the rest of the Lakers got their revenge against the Bulls. And also too, Austin Reeves. I guess the old saying is turnabout is fair play because he did the whole small, like, little like, oh, you're too small to Pat Bev. So I'm sure Pat Bev had to have known that was coming. But it was fine. I mean, the Bulls, try to keep it close. The Lakers came out, went out to an early lead. Bulls tried, came back, kept it close, but it was some big shots by various guys like Reeves, like LeBron. That of course the Lakers hold off the Bulls, and on Monday, unfortunately, back in LA, it was Nicholas Batum that single-handedly helped the Clippers beat the Bulls. So, Sid, what do you think about the Bulls this week?
The Clippers game was bound to happen, especially what the Bulls did to the Lakers on last Sunday at that same arena still called Staples Center. But the Bulls defensively against the Clippers, they didn't have, you mentioned Nicholas Batum went off, hitting 7 3-pointers. Kawhi Leonard did his thing. So the Bulls were tired, and so they were looking forward to coming home. So their minds were somewhere else on Monday. Now, Wednesday, I think it's the first time in a couple of years that Anthony Davis has played in the United Center in the Lakers uniform. Just like LeBron always wants to put on the show, the house that MJ built. Anthony Davis likes to come home and put on a performance as well. He did that with 38 points. LeBron James looked good in extended minutes. He had 25 and 31 minutes of action. You mentioned Austin Reeves trolling, but he had a nice game as well, chipping in with 19. Nikolai Vucevic is starting to come into his own too. I know he's looking for a contract this summer. He led the team with 29. DeMar DeRozan had 22. Zach LaVine struggled. He only had 16 points, even though he was 8 for 14 shooting from the floor. I still believe that the Bulls will barely make it into the play-in as the 10th seed. They'll probably end up facing Brooklyn or Atlanta. They could beat one of those. I think they could beat both those teams if they're motivated. But the Patrick Beverley effect is still real, and Kobe White is proving to be more of a commodity coming off the bench.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like that's kind of like his thing. Kobe White. Look, we'll see if he gets traded over the offseason. That's going to be like the thing. But if you're the Bulls, you want to see more of that production from him. So whether or not he does get traded, I think that's that's for A.K. Eversley to figure out. But not the best showing for the Bulls this week, but like you said, I think they were tired from the Clippers game. They were still on a high from being the Lakers, despite all this stuff that transpired. And then you had, of course, the Lakers. They won. It was the LeBron revenge game. Of course, AD likes to put on a show for his hometown, with 38 points. So yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. Now going back to the rest of the week. In the NBA, of course, we'll start with 2 games last night. We'll just get those out the way. The Pelicans got a nice win against the Nuggets, 107-88. Brandon Ingram's been on a tear as of late. He's been really solid. 31 points, 11 boards, 10 assists. So I think he has I think it's his 3rd triple double in the last 2 weeks or something like that. So I think this will help with the Pelicans, especially with seeding and whatnot. Now Denver, I don't think they're not going to lose their number 1 seed, but at the same time though, they've had their struggles. I know Jokic didn't play. I guess they caught that they used it as a rest day for him. I know you have your issues about that, but in a losing effort, Jamal Murray had 21 in a losing effort. Not too much help from some of their guys. I mean, I see Bruce had 19 points, was a career high for him off the bench, but it wasn't enough for the Nuggets. Excuse me, easy for me to talk.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Lakeena, the Nuggets had some of their key players out there resting up for the playoffs. I believe we have at least a little bit over a week and a half to go in the regular season. It ends next weekend, so the Nuggets are trying to take advantage and get their stars ready. And you can say this about the next game. I know you're going to talk about this briefly. The Celtics pounced the Milwaukee Bucks in Wisconsin last night, 140-99. If you're a Bucks fan, you're not worried about this either.
No, I think we can just skip that game. I mean,
Thank you.
well, yeah. I mean, look, this stuff happens. They were 20 for 45 from 3. I'm talking about the Celtics. Look, usually these things happen. I know Jaylen Brown, he couldn't miss. Well, he was 8 for 10 from 3-point range. That's pretty bad. You're not going to be able to beat that. So
Yeah.
40 points was a season high for him. So yeah, I'm not. If you're a Bucks fan, you could just look, it happens. Just burn the tape and move on, and then that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, let's go over some of the key games from this past Wednesday in the NBA. We had a couple of injuries to report. Julius Randle for the New York Knicks during their 101-92 win at home at MSG against the Miami Heat on Wednesday. He gets injured. Now he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season, possibly the first round of the playoffs, and that is huge for the New York Knicks. We talk about Jalen Brunson being the MVP of that team, which has been proven all year long. He should have been an all-star, but I digress from that. Julius Randle this time last year was looking to get traded. It didn't happen, but he's had a nice bounce back year, and this is going to be a huge loss for the Knicks. We assume they're going to meet up with the Cleveland Cavaliers in that first round, and if that's the case, they need Julius Randle badly, especially against that Cleveland squad.
Yeah, Emmanuel clearly had 24 points. You gotta think, he'll have to pick up the slack with Randall being out, but is he gonna be able to hang on to that? That's gonna be another thing. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Sacramento, congrats to them. They clinched a playoff spot with a 120-80 win over the Kings. 19 points for Mr. Malik Monk, and I know that there's this checklist that they posted about the Kings. They got their first winning season since 06. This could be their first playoff appearance since 06. We'll see if they win a playoff series because it's been a while since they've done it since 04 and conference appearance since 02. We won't go into the NBA the finals and all that stuff because that's still a long ways away, and that was back. They weren't even the Sacramento Kings back then. So but I like how they posted that. But yeah, look, you gotta think that Mike Brown has kind of wrapped up Coach of the Year. I think it'd be crazy if you're not to give it to him at this point.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth, Lakeena, regarding Mike Brown. He should be Coach of the Year. If he doesn't get it, it's going to be a problem. Malik Monk, I'm not saying he's going to be Sixth Man of the Year, but he should be up there in the top two, top three at worst. I wanted to ask you real quick about the Sacramento Kings before we move on. Without Googling, can you name some of the players that were on their last playoff team in 2006?
Was Mike Bibby on that team?
Yes, he was. And I'm not on Google, by the way, so.
Was Vlade Divac on there?
No, he just retired.
I think he retired like a year before. Sidney wasn't on there, was he?
No, he was not. He was on Philadelphia.
Philly. Oh God, like that's the only was Doug Christie on that team?
I want to say no. You can check that in a minute, but I want to say no.
Oh,
I might be wrong, but I don't think he was.
I'll say yeah. It's been, like I said, it's been you can tell, folks. It's been a minute since the Kings have been in the playoffs. So
yeah, I'll just tell you a couple other players that were on that team. Peja Stojakovic, he was coming to the end of his career before he won his ring with Dallas a few years later.
That makes sense.
Remember Kevin Martin, number 23?
Kevin Martin, too. Well, interesting you bring up Peja. His son was on the McDonald's on the McDonald's.
Yes, I saw that. I'm like, we're getting old, Lakeena.
Yeah, and he's going to Stanford. Yeah, so
congrats to him.
Oh yeah, he's super smart. I know. I think it's his mom. I think Paige's wife. I think has her MBA. So yeah, that's not. Well, yeah, that's of course you saw Bronny James, DJ Redner. Of course, you guys remember his dad Dewan, and for folks even older, of course, his grandfather. Well, he calls him Pop. Milt won a national championship in '86 with the Louisville. So yeah.
Yes.
It makes you feel old. Game. We may talk about that a little bit later on, but yeah.
Yeah, and one more key player from that 06 Sacramento Kings team that lost to the Spurs in that first round that year.
Yep.
Ron Artest, now Meta World Peace.
Oh,
He's doing work for the Lakers on TV now.
Yeah, I know he's actually pretty good on there too. So yeah.
Yes.
It's been, like I said, it's been a while, but yeah. So we'll see what the Kings can do in the playoffs and such. But I want to talk about a couple others as we move along here, as from the Wednesday matchups. Russell Westbrook had 36 points as the Kings. If you took the over in the Kings Grizzlies game, you had a nice Wednesday night, 141-132. Here we go with these base scores. Westbrook had 36 points and 10 assists. He's the first player to have this type of at least 30 points and 10 assists in a game, and with 5 different franchises. Of course, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Wizards, the Lakers, and now with the Clippers. So yeah, nice milestone for him. And the 76ers beat the Mavs.
I'm sorry to worry about the Mavericks. I think your prediction is correct, Lakeena. I know Kyrie said something crazy after the game. They were in it, but they just couldn't pull through. I think they're going to make the play-in tournament, but I don't know if they're going to get out of the play-in tournament to qualify for the number 7, number AC.
Well, yeah, they're kind of in and out of the play-in tournament right now as we're recording this. So let me look at the standings real quick. But yeah, as of right now, they're a game behind the Thunder we'll get to the Thunder in a second because they had a couple of big milestones there. But yeah, they're a game out of the play-in tournament as we're recording this. So yeah, well,
I think Mark Cuban will be pulling his hair out and then some if they don't make it at the end of this season.
Yeah, my goodness. The Suns beat the T-Wolves 107-100, and again another high scoring game here. Drew Holiday had 51 points. That's a career high for him as the Bucks beat the Pacers again. If you took the over, you had a nice little showing there. They're the first team to have a 50-point score and a 35-point triple double. Of course, Giannis had a triple double that game as well. So that was a very interesting showing there as well. Interesting game there, but yeah, Giannis had 38, 17 boards and 12 assists. So they're the first NBA team to have a 50-point score and a different player have a triple double, 30 plus triple double. So a nice history maker for them.
We talk about one team that has problems winning on the road, but they do not have a problem winning at home. That's the Golden State Warriors. This past Tuesday, they come from 20 points down. Steph Curry scored 39 points as the Warriors defeated the Pelicans 120-109 at the Chase Center. It looks like the Warriors are starting to get into form. Lakeena. We know that they're going to start the playoffs on the road. They won't have the home court advantage like they did in years past. And so it's going to be tough for the Warriors, but Steph Curry's going to have to stay healthy. Draymond Green's going to have to find motivation for somewhere, and Klay Thompson is just going to have to stay hot shooting.
Yeah, they now have more than 250 3-pointers this same season each. I'm talking about Steph and Klay. They did, of course, in 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017. No other pair of teams have done that in NBA history. So as long as they get the home court, it'll be interesting to see how they do, especially if they have to do if they have to go on the road. So that's going to be sort of an interesting thing there. I want to give a quick shout out to one Mr. Donovan Mitchell. Even though the Cavs lost to the Hawks 120-118, he is the fastest player, among the fastest player to get to 10,000 points. So I think that was he's the fourth fastest active player to reach 10,000 points. I'm trying to only LeBron James, Embiid, KD. It is actually Mitchell's 410th game, so it's the fourth fastest someone has gotten to 10,000 points. So it was a losing effort, but still a great milestone nonetheless.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell's proven his word that as he was traded to Cleveland Cavaliers over the summer, and that's one of the main reasons why they're in the playoffs. So of course, we reported to you guys on our last show on Monday that Joel Embiid was supposed to play against the Denver Nuggets on Monday. It didn't happen, but the Philadelphia 76ers still gave a valiant effort, but it came up 5 points short as the Denver Nuggets defeated Philadelphia last Monday, 116-111. Jokic had for 25 points for Denver. Tyrese Maxey led Philadelphia with 29.
Yeah, I know some people wonder did Embiid punt, if this was supposed to be an rest day. People felt that this is a chance to prove to the folks that he was worthy of the MVP and not Jokic. He missed his shot, but like I said, we'll see what happens the rest of the season. We still got about a little over a week left, so we'll see how this goes. But nice win by Denver. Regardless, Phoenix beat Utah 117-103. Look, Phoenix had a nice week. Of course, like you said, they beat the Jazz and they beat the T-Wolves in KD's first game back. He only had 19 points. You can tell he was a little bit rusty. I mean, he hasn't played in over a month. I think people need to kind of give him a little slack for that. I'm sure he'll get better as the season as he gets more and more games. 16 points is not look. It's not to sneeze at. With your first game back and not playing. So. I think he'll get better. Even better, I think the Suns won. They've gone, like I said, they've gone 2-0 this week. So they're starting to kind of figure things out a little bit. I'm talking about the Suns.
Yeah, Kevin Durant can fit on just about any team. He's a pure scorer, one of the best pure scorers in the game today, and one of the best in his generation. He can come in, can help out any team. He doesn't need much to help your team win. Like you said, Lakeena, he's been back for there was his first game back the other night. It shouldn't have to take him that long to get into basketball shape as we get ready for prime time playoff games. And so I like you said, as long as he doesn't get hurt again, he should be okay. And like I said, for people say, "Oh, it's 16 points," you got to ease yourself back into it. It's not a video game. You can restart and cheat codes and all that foolishness. So this is real life. So I wouldn't be too worried if you're a Suns fan. As long as KD is healthy, come a couple of weeks from now when the playoffs start, you should be fine.
Yeah, so we're going to see what happens with that. Now, going back to Tuesday, the Hornets edged out the Thunder 137-134. Now, unfortunately, PJ Wash had 43 points, which is a career high for him. But in a losing effort, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, and Josh Giddey each had 30. Scored over 24 points. Actually, they both scored 30 points, but it wasn't a losing effort. They actually are the first trio to do that in a Thunder uniform since, of course, KD, Harden, and Russell Westbrook. So it was a losing effort, but again, a nice showing by them. That actually I actually saw a little bit of this game. It actually ended up being a crazy game. But yeah, I mean, if you took the over, that's you had a pretty nice Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, as we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, these teams are jockeying for position and such. So to me, it's really going to depend on how these teams react and such. So yeah, as we get to some of these games coming up, but yeah, I'm interested to see how these teams play, especially the ones that are kind of right there for that play-in tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned Oklahoma City experience of the two extremes has been like that for them all season. Even though they've been playing above people's expectations, they get a nice win the next night on Wednesday against Detroit 107-106. And hopefully for these guys heading to next year, hopefully you get your original draft pick, Chet Holmgren, back from a torn ACL. These guys are learning how to win and how to play in crucial situations, and they'll better help serve them for next season.
Yeah, so we'll just see what happens with that now as we go into this weekend's games. We got a long list of games coming up for you tonight. So bear with us. The course we talked about the Bulls and the Hornets at 6:00. And also to get OKC and
that's on NBC Sports Chicago Plus.
Well, yeah, because of course, they got the White Sox game at the same time. OKC in Indiana, that's also at 6:00. Toronto and Philadelphia. I'm sure a lot of Bulls fans are going to be cheering for for Philly in that matchup. They're still jockeying for those top two seeds. Orlando and the Wizards at 6. You got Utah starting their East Coast trip against Boston at 6:30. Atlanta and Brooklyn. This is definitely a lot of playoff implications here. And of course, the Knicks, about Julius Randle, base Cleveland. It's also at 6:30.
Now, finishing out tonight's schedule, Friday, we have Detroit at Houston at 7:00. The Clippers at Memphis at 7:00. The Lakers at the Minnesota Timberwolves at 7:00. That's your NBA TV Friday night doubleheader. That's the first game. At 9:00, we'll have San Antonio at Golden State. Also at 9:00, Sacramento at Portland. And your second half of that NBA TV doubleheader tonight will feature Denver at Phoenix. That's at 9:30.
Yeah, remember ESPN has the women's Final Four in San Antonio, as you can see why the doubleheader is on the NBA TV tonight, and just 2 games for Saturday, April Fool's Day. I'm not making this up. NBA TV, you got at 6:30, you got the Mavs and the Heat. You will see where the Mavs are at this point. Also, you got the Heat; they're trying to fight to stay in that position in the play-in, and also you got the Clippers and the Pelicans.
All right, this is a long list for games for Sunday, so bear with us because there's no game on Monday because of the college basketball national championship. So it's a full slate for Sunday's game. So here we go. Memphis will travel to Chicago. Memphis will travel to Chicago to take on the Bulls at 2:30. At high noon, we have Toronto at Charlotte. This is Sunday games, folks. At 2:30, we have Utah at Brooklyn. Also at 2:30, we'll have Portland at Minnesota. At 5:00 on NBA TV, Dallas at Atlanta, big game for both teams. Also at 5:00, we'll have the Wizards at the Knicks. Also Detroit at Orlando, San Antonio at Sacramento. At 6:00, we'll have the Lakers at Houston to take on the Rockets. Also at 6, the Suns at the Thunder. The Thunder have given the Suns problems this year. At 7:00, we'll have Indiana at Cleveland. Philadelphia and Milwaukee. That should be a good one. Hopefully all the stars will play in that one. And wrapping up the Sunday night NBA TV doubleheader. We'll have Golden State at Denver at 7:30. So that's your schedule for the NBA for this weekend.
But as you can see, Sid didn't leave me a game to preview, so thanks a lot, Sid. But with that said, of course, with the long scheduling and such, everyone's playing on Sunday because of the national championship game on Monday. But we're going to take a really quick break. We are one of our friends of the show, WGN TV's Larry Holly. We'll talk Bulls. We'll maybe preview the Final Four that's coming up this week. Also, to his love of beer and marathons. So got a lot to do with our good friend Larry. So all that coming up next in hour number 2. Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown, the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More, with Larry Holly coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this fun Friday Fun edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena's going to be on the IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comment section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's bring on a friend of the show to kick off hour number 2 of this fabulous program. He's a sports producer at WGN TV Sports in Chicago. He also has a program that you can watch on WGNTV.com called WGN News Now. Bringing up sports vignettes and feature stories throughout the world of sports in Chicago and abroad. And you can follow him on Twitter at Harley Sports. Once again, that's HAWLEY Sports on Twitter. He's our good friend, Mr. Larry Howery. Larry, how you doing today?
Hey.
I'm wonderful. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, good.
Yeah,
We're happy to have you back.
No, glad to be back. It's been a little bit, so I'm happy to be here.
I know it's been a while. So, Sid, I know he wants to talk about his White Sox first. So, Sid, defer to you for the first question.
Yeah, I'm doing even better after watching Dylan Cease last night dominating those Houston, as our guy Sean Sierra calls them, the Houston trash throws. But Dylan Cease was dominating last night with 10 strikeouts. Of course, everybody on the White Sox got a hit except for Eloy Jimenez last night. I'm not going to sit here and say that the White Sox is going to go 162 and all. That's not going to happen. But looking at the White Sox performance from last night, they actually one of the few times they actually beat the Houston Astros outside the 2021 playoff series. They really looked good last night. I don't know what your predictions were for the White Sox this season, but last night, if you're a Sox fan, last night's performance really gives you confidence for the rest of the year.
Well, it certainly does. I think what's awesome is that Cease just came right back and was just as good as he's ever been against a really great lineup that Houston has. So I think that's one thing that's encouraging. I was great to see Andrew Vaughn have that moment. They had a lot of chances to drive in runs and weren't really able to do it. It was kind of like your traditional opening day. I thought the thing that stood out was just having Cease perform that well and having a real impact hit from one of your younger players who you showed a lot of faith in. By letting Jose Abreu go so you could play at first base. So, and oddly enough, Jose was right there. So I think that really for me is a Cease. And then again, Vaughn, you let a guy who I think easily is the best player in the last decade for the White Sox walk to let Andrew take that position. So those are all good things. It's a nice moment for them. You beat the reigning world champions. You do so on ESPN. You have a dynamic moment to do it. You have a historic performance by your pitcher. And Pedro Grifol is the first manager to win his first game in 25 years. Nice positive vibes going through there. And you saw some stuff you like, you don't like. It's game one. It's one of those things. It's just really nice to win it. So if you're a White Sox fan, it's been a weird year. It's a nice moment for them to have.
Well, same thing with the Cubs too, right? I mean, the Cubs had a sort of like a kind of surprised a lot of people last year. Did better than a lot of people thought. They too won their opener against the Brewers yesterday. Marcus Stroman pushed the gym. Dansby Swanson got his first home run as a Cub. Tremont City had a RBI too. What do you think are the Cubs' chances? Can they perhaps maybe make a shot at one of those wild card spots in the National League?
Well, you can. I mean, as long as they get around 84 wins, you always have a shot for it. I have them. My projected range, I think last year was 72 to 77, and they ended up at 75. I kind of moved that range up maybe to like 77, 82 this year. Some might consider that to be maybe perhaps a little bit too optimistic, but I think that's about where they land. I think that they improved a decent amount. You especially the addition of Dansby. Cody Bellinger is really interesting. If he's able to return to form, he'll be a good outfielder. But if he could return to form at the plate, that's a former MVP right there. You could get kind of a steal there. Now that if they do want to keep him, they'd have to obviously pay him. Yeah, there's some other ones. I think they're going to be a good defensive team, and that's not anything new. I think they'll rely on some good pitching, which I think that they improved on. But there's some holes there too. They got to find a closer first, and you really, really don't have one at the moment. You figure out kind of how the bullpen works. But if you want to talk about defense, they've got it. I think that they improved this year. Really interesting to see what becomes of Ian Happ because he's in a contract year now. And if the Cubs are competitive, they're not going to trade him most likely unless they get an inspired deal of some sort. So I think they can. I think that they've improved enough to put them in that position. The NL Central, is it a dominant division? Not really. So I think anything is possible, but it's a little bit of wait and see because it's not like they added tons and tons where you think, oh, they're going to do this where the core's been together 2-3 years. So there's a little bit of mysteries to what they do, but could they make a run for the playoffs? Absolutely. I think if they play competitive baseball in September, that is baseball that means something for the playoffs. I think that's definitely a step forward because remember, they still are trying to build a brand new core.
I want to ask, even though it was just one day yesterday, Larry, with opening day, most of the games averaged around 2 hours and 40 minutes yesterday. Of course, because of the new rule changes with the bigger bases and the pitch clock. I was watching both the national broadcast of the Sox last night. You mentioned it was on ESPN. I was watching Marquee as well with the Cubs. And some of these broadcasts are trying to put the pitch clock where you could barely see it. But I wanted to ask you about the broadcast of some of these games yesterday with the pitch clock being placed on a score bug, and overall with these shorter games. How do you like some of these rule changes? Do you think it'll be a non-factor as the season goes along?
I'm not sure how it's going to go. Well, certainly the games were quicker, and I think that's what they've wanted. They wanted that for a really long time. It's why they've established things for years. They want to try to appeal to an audience that they feel is not watching or tuning in for these lengthy, long 3-hour games. I have always trended to being a traditionalist with an open mind, so I never really dismiss anything. For instance, the Ghost Runner, I'm not a huge fan of it. I like 7-inning doubleheaders. I thought it was great to save the pitchers. I thought it was a great thing for fans. I think you get your quicker games. So I'm kind of really in the middle on how this is going to work. Is this going to affect the game? I think it will. I think certainly it has that opportunity to do so. I am very curious. That's what I am. I'm curious. I'm not really dismissing it nor endorsing it yet. I'm not sure how it's going to be. I thought the broadcast handled it fine. I think they're going to find new ways to see how it presents to the people. But I don't know how it's going to do. Marcus had the first violation, which I saw. It was very, very interesting. About the only thing he had, speaking of that, I kind of neglected to say that for the opening day. He had a really nice start. And I think, he had, if you really want to talk about a way in which the Cubs could leap, if he can get, kind of back to the form he had. It wasn't bad last year by any means. He was dealing with injuries, and you're kind of adjusting to a new club. But he had some great form at the end of the last decade. So if he returns to that, that could be another thing. But again, veteran guy makes that mistake. That's going to happen. When are you going to get a batter who isn't ready and it's a strike 3 call to end the game? It happened in spring training. Maybe opinions will change. I'm kind of in the middle on it right now. I'm more or less being curious. I think that's the Ted Lasso line. I haven't watched it, but I've heard about it. I think you stay curious. That's kind of where to be fair with you, that's kind of where I am with it right now. I'm not really ready to dismiss it nor go all out and say it's endorsing it. If through one day you've seen it makes the game shorter, which is what they wanted.
Yeah, even the 10-9 games, we saw a couple of those. They didn't feel very long. So we'll see what happens there. Now I want to switch gears and talk some Bulls for a second. They're right there on the edge of the play-in. It looks like they are going to get into the play-in tournament. With about a week and a half left. Do you think they can pull off any upsets? And can they really do anything and make noise in the playoffs?
I mean, you can. It's such a short sample size. You can do it. Could they make it and get in as an 8th seed? Or, at least right now, kind of looking like they're going to probably end up maybe around that 9 or that 10. I mean, they're kind of shuffling around there. They would have a shot for the 7, obviously. Sure, they could get in. You have one game, you have one thing, 1-2 games. You certainly can do that. Will they do anything in the playoffs? It's hard to think that they would. I mean, there have been some good things. Pat Beverly's added a little bit, I think, a little bit of a spark to them. I think Kobe White playing well has been actually something that's I think is really encouraging because fans have been waiting for that for a while. But there's, you look at the benefit of it. I think if they make the playoffs, it gives Karnisovas a couple more games to see what this core is all about because they're going to have to do something right because you're probably not going to have Lonzo for most of next year. And I'm not sure if the core works if you don't have Lonzo there. I don't think they've been quite the same since Lonzo has not been in the lineup. So I think they'll make the play-in. I think barring a really significant collapse. Will they do anything there? Sure, they could. Will they do anything in the playoffs? I never rule anybody out because weird things happen. You have a guy like DeRozan, you've got like Aveen, and things can happen. It would be hard to imagine the Bulls doing more than taking a game or two if they made the traditional playoffs. But that's kind of where I view it. I think the biggest benefit is Arturas Karnisovas getting a chance to see how the team does against elite talent, using that more as evaluation for changes that are going to have to be made to this team.
We're talking Chicago sports and more with our good friend Larry Howard, sports producer at WGN-TV in Chicago, right here on Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, real live in living color. Sticking with the Bulls, Larry, despite what this team has gone through this year, and no matter how this season ends, playoffs or not, what do you think of the Bulls' plans for this summer? Of course, Nikolai Vucevic is a free agent. DeMar DeRozan is a free agent next year, but technically he can still be traded. You mentioned Kobe White. His name was in trade talks last year, but of course he didn't get traded. So if you had a crystal ball in front of you right now, what do you think that AK and Mark Eversley will do over the summer?
There's part of me that thinks maybe there's a big move. Maybe there's a significant trade, and maybe they don't sign Vucevic. I think a lot of things are open. You heard some rumors about Levine, around the deadline when it came to the Knicks. Could they explore that if they don't feel like Levine's the guy moving forward? Perhaps. I could see a shakeup because I don't know necessarily if this core is it. I think they might have to either move one of the bigger guys, whether they're going to have to, maybe rethink how they do it. Do they keep the big three and then look for another point guard? Do they make a major deal with one of those guys? Obviously not with Vooch unless they sign and trade him.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a lot here. I don't really know. It's very, very interesting to see what they're going to do. I don't necessarily know if anyone's untouchable, and I don't think that was even the case at any point. I anticipate some sort of major move. I can't imagine Karnisovas, for the way he talks so much about wanting to compete now, not being willing to go through a rebuild, that he not try to do something that's going to help the Bulls take a step and a leap in competitiveness. I think there's a major move coming. I could be wrong. But for a guy, I'm basing this off of the fact that I don't know if this core right now is assembled is going to do much better than what you have last year, which was a 6th seed. I don't know. Could they? Sure, things happen. But I'm really curious to see if a major move is it made either for them to either A, move into the draft, or B, try to assemble a new group of veterans and make it work again. Because I'm not certain that this core, which had a very promising start, can do it if you don't have Lonzo Ball there. And I don't know when you're going to have Lonzo Ball. A very sad situation for a very talented basketball player who is looking now, at being out of the lineup at least 2 years. If I think the optimistic projections have him somewhere around middle of next season after this knee surgery. That's 3 knee surgeries, in the course of what'll be about 14 or 15 months. It's hard for me to think that they won't make a major move. Again, based on the fact that AK and Eversley have talked so much about competing now. We're going to bring the Bulls brand back now. We're going to bring the competitive back now. I think a major move could be coming.
Well, let's lighten the move here and talk some beers. Hilarious. Yeah.
Hey, at least they got money to spend. At least they have money to spend, and they're spending it.
Yeah,
save it for Justin Fields in a couple of years. Just saying.
That's probably what. What do you think about what do you think about all the moves so far? What do you think they're going to do in the draft?
Well, I think the one thing that Poles is proving, there's 2 things Poles is proving. Number one, the moves certainly shore up Justin Fields as the number 1 quarterback and their faith in him. If there was a doubt after they got the first pick, that's been settled. Justin's the guy moving forward. I think that that's a really strong thing that they need to do. I think that that's very important, and I think that that's very big. The next thing that I think is really important for me is where Poles is building this team and where he started. Where did he start in the draft last year, and where did he start in free agency this year? He started with defense. So I think it's really interesting for him that they are really looking at defense as being a big part of building this team. Does that have a lot to do with Eberflus? Absolutely. But I think that that's really important for me, and as far as what I think he may be looking to build the team, is establish his quarterback and make sure he knows he's there while also building a defense. Again, you sign Edmonds and Edwards. That's your first 2 signings, and they're fairly significant. So I'm not shocked I wouldn't be shocked, I should say, that in the draft, the Bears may look and may decide to go defense. They may think defense. And they need it. They need it on that front line. Even though that there may be needs at the offensive tackle position, and they do need stuff on the line, I really think defense is going to be a big part of what's going on here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go defense. So I think the one thing that stands out to me about Poles and the 2 things, again, very early and very simple, the faith in Fields, which he showed with what he showed with the trade with the Panthers, which I thought was a very good one to get the 2 first-round picks and also get your number 1 receiver in Moore. A great move by him, and I think in there, and I can't really argue with that very much. So I really think that if you're looking at it now, at least from my perspective, I think it shows in many ways that Poles is really thinking about the defense, establishing that defense that really struggled last year, making that a priority, and that the Bears build there while they solely kind of build on offense and do that. So I wouldn't be shocked if a defender's picked at 9, even with the need for an offensive tackle, which is probably where they should go. but he's shown the desire to build defense, and there are some talented defenders up there, especially on the lines, that could help the Bears out.
We're halfway home with our good buddy Larry Harley from WGN TV Sports in Chicago, right here in Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena hanging out here with you on the Friday edition. Larry, let's transition over to college basketball. The Final Four is set for tomorrow in Houston. You have UConn in Miami in the second game. The first game, Florida Atlantic versus San Diego State. Before we get your predictions on both games, many people, the traditionalists, have been complaining that there's no Kentucky, Duke, Kansas in the Final Four this year. Of course, a lot has to do with these mid-major teams having juniors and seniors playing together for the last 3 or 4 years. And of course, you have the NIL rule in the transfer portal. Do you think this is good or bad for college basketball? Because this is clearly has been a wide open tournament, this big as wide open as I can remember.
Well, you might remember where I said that I'm a traditionalist, open to change. Well, this is what I feel kind of about NIL. I've said since I was in college that I felt athletes should be paid, and I felt like that the day was kind of overdue. I felt like that was what should happen. I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's really interesting to see Florida Atlantic. Janelle Davis is a Gary native, so we even have a little bit of a tie here. And of course, there's other ties that we have. Chicago, but he's the main one. So it's been cool to see Florida Atlantic. It's been interesting to see Miami, a team that has used NIL to its advantage to take a program that's been there before and now take it to the Final Four. Using those with a veteran head coach, somebody who has certainly been there, has been there as a upstart underdog as well. So I've enjoyed it. I don't think it makes it fun for coaches, because it has changed the way you have to coach. You have to manage your roster now. You're not having 3 or 4 years to build. You are having to look at possibly losing players here and there. As I may mention, Illinois with Brad Underwood, Chris Collins with Northwestern last year, losing Nance, and they go to the tournament. It certainly has made adjustments for coaches in this league, in the college basketball. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Players are now having the options that coaches have had for a long time. I've been kind of more into the liberal leaning on this thought when it comes to the athletes and to the coaches. So I kind of enjoy it. I don't think there's anything wrong with some of these, these programs getting the chance to shine on the major stage. And some of it's not really a surprise. San Diego State would have been a number 1 seed in 2020 if they played the tournament. They've been coming up now for a long time and been playing well for a long time. Florida Atlantic, obviously, is a major surprise. Nobody really saw them. Miami's kind of been, knocking on the door here for a little while. So it's not a blue blood Final Four, which I think is great. I think it's unique to point out some other. We've always talked about spotlighting other players, other teams. What a way to do it on arguably one of the biggest stages you can find in all sports. I like it. It's interesting. NIL will force changes, but the game adjusts, coaches adjust, players adjust. Not everybody's going to want to transfer every year, but some will. So I think it's just a process, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. But no, I love this Final Four. It's great, and I'm excited to see it.
Well, our buddy Lamont Scott's going to kill us if we don't ask you. I know you follow women's hoops as well.
Yes.
That commences tonight in San Antonio. You got LSU and Va Tech. In the first game, of course, you got the marquee game. Caitlin Clark in Iowa against Aaliyah Boston and South Carolina. I know the Wazers are probably going to use for that second game. So he says, do you think LSU has a shot? And can Iowa beat Iowa? Iowa beat South Carolina, I should say.
I don't know. Maybe, Caitlin Clark is playing such great basketball right now. I don't know. Iowa could be one of those teams that pulls it off. South Carolina is extremely talented. I don't know if anybody stops them. I mean, I don't know if they can do it. I mean, the Caitlin Clark, the way she's played has been incredible. South Carolina, they've got a juggernaut. I don't know if anybody beats them. Anything can happen. Final Fours are weird. That can happen. You can get weird winners. I'm not sure. If I had a bet, I'm not really a betting guy. Some people might hold that against me. It would be very hard for me based on their resume and what they've done. It's hard for me to bet against South Carolina, even though LSU, they've all been good. It's really hard for me to bet against South Carolina right now. So could it happen? Sure. It's the Final Four. Weird things happen. I don't think it happened. I think if I bet a pick, it's South Carolina.
Okay. Who are going back to the men's college game? Who's your picks for tomorrow, and who races up that trophy on Monday night in Houston?
This is a hard one. I've been trying to think of where. I mean, I really, really don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, that's the beauty of this. Like, this Final Four reminds me a lot. I don't know if you guys remember in 2011 when Butler VCU made it, and that was like kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
There's something that unifies that tournament and this Final Four, and that's UConn. UConn is the program that is probably knocking on the door of the Blue Bloods. You could probably consider them a blue blood, but have very, very quietly played good basketball all year. They've just kind of done their thing. I love the upstarts. I think how cool would it be to see Florida Atlantic win as a 9? I have to go with UConn. There's part of me that has that feeling like I did 12 years ago, where UConn is playing strong basketball. You might remember 2011. That was the Kemba Walker team.
Yep.
And that was the one that won the 5 straight games in the Big East tournament and just never stopped. And I kind of get that feeling with UConn. I think looking at it, and we were talking about it the other day, I even took a look at it, one more time here. I'm like thinking, with it being so wide open, is there anybody else? And for me, it's UConn. For me, that's where I'm going. I would think it would be really cool to see those other schools get a first national championship. You will get a school with a first national championship game appearance no matter what, because Florida Atlantic or San Diego State's got to go anyway. But I think personally, if I pick UConn, and right now, I think I'm going San Diego State, because San Diego State has been building for a little while here and would have probably been a 1 seed in 2020 had they played the tournament. I think that's where I'm going, and I think UConn wins that. I think Hurley has done a great job there, but I get that feeling. I've talked about being a traditionalist. I get a huge 2011 vibe from this tournament, and that's where in my mind I think this is going. So I pick UConn, but a wonderful Final Four. I really enjoy it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and you get all new fan bases and you get all new teams. I thought it was wonderful when Loyola made it back. Although Loyola, I think one great thing about Loyola is it brought back their wonderful past that they had back in the 1960s. And actually, the 60th anniversary of that championship was just last week. So I think there's all great things. If NIL can do this and can bring other schools into this, and we can have these Final Fours here and there, that's wonderful. I love it.
Last couple of moments with our buddy WGN TV's Larry Holly here on Second City Sports on SportsZone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Okay, I follow you. I think I both follow you on both Twitter and Instagram. I know you're a big avid marathon runner. You were just in Los Angeles to run their marathon. I commend anybody that does this. So I know you do it for charity. So tell us why. What's it like your training and running and all this and all other stuff for a marathon? Because I couldn't do it.
Well, marathons were something that came to my mind probably like 7 years ago. So I used to do sprint running, and during a sprint one time, I actually suffered a concussion. So I had trouble sprinting. Like, I would get kind of nerved all about it. So my sister suggested that I try long distance running, which she had done. She had completed a couple of marathons. So this was something that I've been running for about 21 years. So I started when I was coming out of college. I was very overweight. I really wasn't in shape. So I just did sprint runs. I went to UOI Saranda Memorial Stadium. It was actually year the Bears were there. So, I started doing that, but distance running is only something I picked up recently. And the one thing that I enjoy about it, and at least what I really enjoy about distance running, is the piece of it, the challenge of it that comes day to day, trying to find speed, which I have not found yet, at least when it comes to marathons. I find a piece to it. I find an achievement to it. It's something that's very, I don't know, it's a very internal thing where it's very much for me a fitness thing. It's a mental health thing. It's an achievement thing, a confidence thing. That's something that I've really found that is the biggest thing for me, at least. I don't, some people are like, do you do it? I don't, for me, it's a very much an individual kind of thing. I know some people run to inspire others. I don't know really if you watch me run a marathon, you're going to be inspired when I'm dying around mile 20 and being tired. I think for me, it's just the mental health and the health benefits that really kind of stand out to me and I think are really unique for me. I don't really know. It's kind of interesting. It's funny. I think, why do I run marathons? I think I just kind of enjoy it. I think I just enjoy the challenge of it. I enjoy what it brings. I enjoy the confidence and the benefits for mental health. I think that's just kind of where I am. And I like seeing different places of the country. Los Angeles was wonderful. I really enjoyed going to Los Angeles and seeing, what that place had to offer and what the city had to offer. You start at Dodger Stadium, which I'd never seen before. You run down Hollywood, you go to like Century City, Beverly Hills, and come back. It used to be Stadium to the Sea, where you would finish in Santa Monica, but they stopped doing that. I think that's it. It's funny because I've always thought about like, why do you run a marathon? I try to come up with like an elaborate answer. And I think it's just fitness and confidence and mental health and the achievement. And I think that's just kind of what I do. That's kind of why I do it. And I find a lot of fun in it. I want to keep doing it as long as my body will allow. I don't know how long my body will allow, but we'll find that out.
Yeah, you're a spring chicken, Larry. We're very proud of you for that. So keep doing your thing as far as being healthy and doing these marathons. Last question from me. I know WGN is celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. I know you guys did a story the other day about the 2005 White Sox with Ozzie again, and that was very good. I know you can catch some of that for our listeners and viewers. Just follow Larry on social media. He posts those events up as well. I wanted to ask you, when you guys going to do a deep dive on specific Bulls games that you guys aired on WGN TV back in the day? I'm really waiting for those because we're looking at the Last Dance over the last couple years. I know NBA TV did some segments here and there, but I was like, when does WGN really, or when they're really going to dive into the specific games that the Bulls that they aired during those Bulls championship runs? Because they also, some iconic moments during those times when you guys had the Bulls games on WGN back in the day.
I don't know. I guess I could take that on. I mean, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I can remember specific Cubs and White Sox games that aired on WGN that were really big. I can remember some from the Bulls. They get memorable ones. I remember, I'm trying to think. I don't know if Jordan scored his 20,000 point on WGN. There's a game I remember John Paxson had a game-winning shot against the Mavericks in 1990, the first year they had it.
Yes.
Just for whatever reason, that one really stands out to me. It was cool. It was a Red Kerr screaming, and it was when Jim Durham was still there. I could deep dive. Like Cubs game, believe it or not, it's kind of weird because Cubs games really stand out because a lot of Cubs games for many, many years were just exclusive on WGN. So I think of the 89 September Saturday game against the Cardinals, where the Cardinals were within a half game. Luis Salazar hits the double, and it was kind of the time where Andre Dawson still had the knee, still had really bad knees. They were starting to really kind of fail him at that point. And he's chugging around from first to third to score, and he makes it, and Sean Dunston picks him up. And basically was the win that pretty much put the Cubs over the top for good during the 2000 good Lord, the 1989 season. And that really kind of put them over the top when it came to winning the division. They were never really challenged after that again. The White Sox, I remember the first year they played at Comiskey Park, the new Comiskey Park, and Robin Ventura hit a grand slam to win the game. It was one of Ivan Rodriguez's first games. And I remember that being a memorable game on WGN. I believe the Cubs had, well, of course, they're clinchers. I mean, the Cubs clinchers on WGN 84, 89. And I don't know if they clinched. I'm not certain. I'm trying to remember if they clinched in 17. I don't think they clinched on GN.
No.
18, they never really had a clincher because they kind of qualified for the playoffs, but they didn't get.
Oh yeah, those tiebreaker games. Yeah, they
had to go into the tie. Yeah. They didn't really celebrate that. So and then in 2015 they actually won at midnight one night. So I think I don't know if you know where they clinched it like midnight on a Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and also go ahead.
And go ahead. Yeah, so I'll think about that though for Bulls games. I could kind of jog my memory and looking back, I'm sure I could find a couple that would really stand out. That would really be fun. I want to say one of the early Jordan Kobe games was a WGN game.
Yeah.
Maybe the 97 one.
Yeah, the 97 when they came back. Yeah, they trailed by 20 to the. That was the first year Shaq was there. Yeah, I know YouTube has that game, but that was from the TNT side. But because back then TNT blacked out, they had it blacked out. It was aired in your local market. So I remember that was a WGN TV game. That was the same one that Dennis Rodman got tackled in overtime. Michael and Scotty had kind of held him back because I forgot. I think it was Jerome Kersey that they were shoving each other. Michael and Scotty said, "Dennis, get back!" And they had to tackle him in front of the scores table.
Yeah, I think that one I remember being a WGN one. We actually had a choir performance the next day, and I remember staying up and watching that. From what I remember, it was Jordan, Kobe, and I remember it was back in the day where you sat down and you watched the entire Bulls game start to finish. You ate your dinner there, and there was that. But that's one that stands out. I'll think of others though. Come back to me next appearance. I'll see if I can drum up a few others. I think the 70th win for the Bulls in 96, 95, 96. I think that was a Sports Channel game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I think that was a Sports Channel game. So
no,
I'll think about it.
Okay, just one more game before we spring you. You guys, I know this was short, and this was on this game's on YouTube now, but you guys did when interleague play started in '97 for MLB. You guys did broadcast the first Cubs-Sox game from Comiskey Park. You should do that one.
And they wore the throwback jerseys.
Yes,
they
wore
the throwbacks and. The Cubs won that game, and I think the Sox took the next two.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cubs swept the next year was the Brant Brown game.
Yeah.
Actually, Sox fans will remember it because it was an Ivy game. I think the Friday game.
It
was Ivy.
Yeah. And then the White Sox, the kids could play in '99, swept the next year. So that's what I remember. It was kind of those weird back when they were just playing once a year. So all fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Yeah, last question for me. I know you do the Valkyrie brewery on your social media. I don't know if you're guys still doing it on Twitter with all the weird stuff that's going on there. But what's been your favorite beer since you last time? I know you've chocolate beers and pumpkin beers and such, for different breweries all over. I'm glad that you did one for a minority owned brewery. I commend you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah. So what's your favorite beers and stouts and such, for people who know that that's kind of another great thing that you do. So tell us your favorite stouts since the last time you've been on with us.
So I had one from, was it Riverlands that I had? There was an Irish stout that was really, really good. I really enjoyed. I'm actually going to go back here and see some of the beers that I had because I sometimes forget. So I did one, you mentioned Lakeena, the Stroll. Yeah. So I did the version from Moore's, and that was outstanding. In fact, it probably was my favorite of the entire series. That I did. I've tried all of them. So I bought that beer. So that was a beer that was done with the Black-owned breweries in Chicago. Jay, the Black Beer Baron, Jay Westbrook, had a big part to doing that. So Funky Town, Moore's, Haymarket did one. 18th Street. 18th Street did that as well. Let me see. I'm just going to roll down. If you don't mind me being patient here. I had Krampus Cookies, which is from Old Irving, which is a favorite brewery that I have. That's on the north side. That was outstanding. So that was one of my favorite ones that I was able to have. Had Beguile's barrel age that they did with a Bottles and Cans, which is a local shop up here. I'm trying to go back a little bit to the holidays as well. There was another one. Where am I looking? I can't believe, it's funny. I do a lot of these beers and I always forget. For those of you who like Goldfinger and you're out in the suburbs, I had one of their beers. That was a Maplewood collaboration that I really, really enjoyed. That I thought was really particularly outstanding that I've had. That was a smoked beer. Just kind of going down here. Gosh, I forget these so much. I have to do a better job of doing that. So I'm trying to look at what ones that I had before. Jay did his with Sketchbook Brewing in Evanston. Jay did his Pathways to Liberation, which is a beer that I know that he did with Sketchbook that I think was about I'm trying to think, it was kind of history there. That was a particularly good one. Forgive me, I'm going straight down the line here. I'm actually looking because I actually have a pretty good access. Did Funky Town. I did Funky Town's. I did their wit beer, which I found very, very good as well. Trying to think of what else I had. And those probably going back about 7 or 8 months, and that I really, really enjoyed. But those are the best ones that I've had, at least in the recent memory. For those of you who really, really like hazies or really like super beers, I actually had a quintuple hopped beer from Microphone out in Elk Grove. That was particularly outstanding. So I really, really enjoyed that. But I'm trying to think of other beers that I've had, because I do tend to try a number of them. But I really enjoyed them. As I mentioned before, Jay's Harold's 83 Honey Ale is probably still one of my favorite. One of these days, I have to just sit down and do a All American team and actually do my top 5 beers. Sorry, Lakeena, that took me way too long to think. That took me way too long to think about and remember.
Well, no. You know what? Look, you just get yourself an idea. You do your top 5 or top 10 beers
do
that
my
you've
top
done so
10.
far. So
Yeah,
far.
and I keep them usually within state, so usually within the area. It's usually for sure within state that I try to do it. So usually, I think the farthest I've gone south is Bloomington, Illinois. I think there was a brewery out somewhere in Rockford as well. But there's some good ones, and like I said, there's other ones that I try and I keep enjoying. So I will definitely think of other ones to try and ones to think of, because I try to try as many as I can while also not having too many so I can keep in shape to run the marathons. But no, it's good. I'll think of more though. But yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite things is kind of trying all the new beers, finding new breweries, if I can find a new one, which can get kind of hard sometimes. So I've tried a lot so far. But those are just some breweries that I really enjoy. Again, Jay Westbrook, who I can speak of all the time. Oh, you know what? Thrower Scotch Ale. I didn't do that for a beer review. I did that for a story. That's in Haymarket that Jay made about Willie Thrower. He was the first black quarterback in the NFL with the Bears back in the 1950s. I don't know why that year is slipping my mind. I think it's 57. I have no idea why that year is slipping my mind. But that was an outstanding. See, that's my range, though. That's a Scotch Ale. That's a brown red ale, a little bit of power to it, but not too powerful. That's my wheelhouse. So Thrower Scotch Ale is really good. That's probably one of my favorites.
All right.
All right. That's WGN TV's Larry Harley. He's a sports producer over there in Chicago. He does a great job, and you can catch his vignettes on sports and more, especially with WGN celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. You can follow him at Harley Sports on Twitter. That's HAWLEY Sports on Twitter, and go find him on Instagram as well. He's a great follow there. Larry, thank you as always for joining us today. Sorry it's been so long. I know you're a very busy guy.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I also want to tell you some breaking news. I actually had to write it during the appearance. Jonathan Taves will come back for the Blackhawks. He's going to play tomorrow night. So
I guess
all right.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah. So
so he's gonna come back. So for those in sports who like it, that's cool. He'll get a chance to play before his contract expires, and either joins another team, stays with the Blackhawks, or he decides to retire. So interesting that came up here just as we were doing that. But yeah, great to join you. I enjoy your program. Happy to have you back, and we'll have you both on WGN News Now's 9 Good Minutes Sports Talk. So we'll have you on here in the next couple of weeks. I appreciate it as always.
All right, looking forward to it, Larry. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, have a great day. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Safe.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Same to you.
All right.
All right. I think I know. I know he gave Larry, our buddy Larry Holly, of course, gave Sid his first opportunity too at the old
sports feed. Yep.
The old sports feed. So yeah, I can't talk for a second, but it happens.
It happens.
Yeah, I just saw that come across the wires a couple of minutes ago. It's interesting that he is coming back. I mean, there were kind of rumors that he wasn't going to play. He's going to talk about Jonathan Taves. So interesting that he's going to do it against the Devils tomorrow. So I'll look at that should be interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm curious if he'll. I'm curious like what's going to be with. I don't know if he'll retire. I mean, based on what he talked about Tuesday. I don't know if he'll retire, kind of the way he was talking about it. Is if the pain's worth it, if he feels good to do it. So it'll be interesting.
All right. You stay safe, Larry. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, was I supposed to interrupt there? Forgive me.
No.
No. You're good, Larry.
You're all good.
No, it's awesome. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the Final Four.
All right,
you too. Thank you
as well. Now, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Final Four for a second here. These last few minutes, actually, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, Lakeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, with you. Now, let's start with this first game. In Houston, you got, of course, San Diego State and Florida Atlantic. Of course, we talked about Johnny Davis from Florida Atlantic Conference Player of the Year from Conference USA. Then you got San Diego State, who's been around. You got Damian Treble, among others. So, what do you think is going to be the key to this game, Sid?
I'm not going to say it's going to be a track meet tomorrow because of what happened. Of course, I'm referring to San Diego State. Of course, they struggled to score against Creighton last Sunday. But I think it's going to come down to the fundamentals are rebounding, assisting, and who's going to make the big play. And for Florida Atlantic, we saw what they did last Saturday afternoon against Kansas State. They dominated inside, especially in that second half. And so I think it's going to come down to rebounding and who does the intangibles at the highest level. That's what's going to come down to. I don't think it's going to be a low scoring game. It's not going to be like a Princeton or some of the or Virginia type games. Heaven forbid that happens. But
Oh, Lord, I hope not.
I think it's going to be in the mid to upper 60, maybe lower 70s. That'll be good for me. So it's going to come down to defense and the intangibles. So who wants it more? And I do have San Diego State in the closer, but I don't think Florida's going to go away. I don't think they're going to go away, and nor should they.
Yeah, I think Vladimir Golden, who we've talked about in the last couple of games, he kind of like the guy on the inside. So it'll be interesting to see if Nathan Mensah, who's also 6'10", I think those two are going to have a nice little matchup there as well. And plus, remember, San Diego State's a veteran squad. They got a lot of seniors on that team.
Yes.
You know, Mensah's one. Of course, talk about David Trammell, who's a fifth-year guy. Matt, rather, I should say. You know, a lot of people, he's also could be a factor here as well. He's one of their leading scorers about for San Diego State. So it's going to be interesting to see, which sort of like the veterans, of course, like Larry said to me a couple of years ago, they could have easily been the number one seed had they played the tournament. Of course, it wasn't for the COVID year. So I'll just see. This could be their time to shine. So I'm thinking San Diego State in this one.
I'm going with San Diego State too, but like I said, Florida, Atlanta, they're not going to go away quietly. They're going to use their inside game like they did last week to clinch the Final Four against Kansas State. But I'm with you. I have San Diego State in this one. I wouldn't be surprised between a 5 and 7 point range.
Yeah, right.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, it sounds about right for this time, especially for San Diego State, because that's been their average. Now, speaking of averages, UConn has had a totally opposite effect. They've been averaging. I think they averaged like 20 points or lower, 21 points. Throughout the tournament. Jordan Hawkins, who I just saw on the crossfires, he's a little bit under the weather. He doesn't have COVID, but he is a little bit under the weather, so that could be something to look out for. We talked about him. We talked about Sanago, Adama Sanago. Who's their big guy up front, from the inside and the outside. Now, of course, Miami, they don't have slouches. They got Isaiah Wong, who's I think who's ACC player of the year, or I think he was all ACC at the very least. Norcat Amir, who could be that force in the inside as well for the rebounding. So this could be a track meet. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout I don't think you guys gonna blow out Miami like they've done with other teams, but I think Miami could definitely hang with UConn. Now, you kind of go a good 10 or 12 deep, so I'm sure Danny Hurd is going to be playing around with different combinations stuff. But we know about Miami's defense, so this could be one of those days where who can control the pace.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that great point, Lakeena, because you mentioned UConn's head coach. They can go 10, 12 deep, and I think how does the Hurricanes handle that? Because some guys, they don't play during the season or they haven't played during certain games. Those certain guys are better matchups for certain teams in certain styles. So I think that's going to be key. Well, both these teams average in the high 70s, but I think it's going to come down to 3-point shooting. And I know Miami can do it. I know UConn could do it when they get hot, but it's going to come down to 3-point shooting for me. And also, too, it's going to come down to rebounding. And especially if UConn can get out on a fast break, it's going to come down to 3-point shooting and fast break points. Whoever has the advantage in both those categories, I think they'll win.
I think second chance points is also going to be a factor too, because we know both these teams can do well with the rebounding. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially with Amir and Sanago, who's going to have like that edge there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And now going back to the Florida Atlantic game, I know I got Brody Lamont. He said he's picking Florida Atlantic. Well, remember Lamont, fatigue might be a factor too. This is going to be their 39th game of the season. I'm talking about Florida Atlantic. So you got to think fatigue might be an issue too. So, for everyone else, it's going to be their 35th or 36th game, which is not that much. So that could be a factor here. So that's something to look out for as well. But look, if you're CBS, you it is what it is. You try to sell it. You try to come here and like people say, well, we'll talk about the women's tournament in a second, but I know people are already, some people are saying, well, the women's tournament will get more than the men's tournament. No one's going to care. Yes, you will. You'll watch. I don't want say people say, well, I'm tired of all the blue bloods. Now they're bitching about other than UConn, you got other three upstarts. People are already complaining. Well, no one's gonna care. Stop, okay? Make up your minds, folks. But carry on, Sid.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get to tonight's matchup with the women's final in just a second. But as I told you off the air, I believe last weekend, I think it was on Monday. I'm really looking forward to that UConn Miami contest, especially now. Before I wasn't looking forward to, I was looking forward to that first game Florida Atlantic versus San Diego State. But I'm really looking forward to that second game with UConn in the University of Miami. I think whoever's going to score 80 points first is going to win. It's just overall. I know we broke it down just a second ago, but whoever scores 80 points first, I think they'll win. But like I said before, with that matchup, it's going to come down to 3-point shooting and fast break points.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. Like I said, I think second chance boys could be a thing. Who hits the three-point? It could be the battle of the threes. Both I'm talking about Miami, UConn. They both shoot the threes very well. So we'll see what happens there now. Tonight, the women's Final Four commences down in San Antonio. Of course, you got LSU. I think they're back. I think it's like 2010, I believe it is. Their first trip back. They play Vod Tech, who's making their first appearance. Kenny Brooks, of course, I remember him from when he played at James Madison. He's from the area. He's been able to build that women's program. I mean, there was some talk that maybe they were going to do away with the women's program. We'll talk about with Virginia Tech since they weren't playing well, but he's definitely kind of built that program from the bottom up. Kim Mulkey, this is her first rodeo. She already has 2 national championships when she was at Baylor. So this could be one of those things where, could nerves be a factor and such. So, yeah, I'm going to take LSU. Yes, Lamont. Yes, Lamont. I'm not sure he's listening. Yeah, I think, I like how, they'll wear you out, LSU. So I'm thinking that maybe they could, kind of be sort of like that factor. And Angel Reese, who's probably probably one of the outside of the other two, Kane Clark and Leo Boston's probably like that second tier women's player that you probably don't know too much about. So she could probably be like be a factor here in this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that second game tonight as we're talking about the women's Final Four. Iowa versus South Carolina. We talked about it a little bit with Larry earlier. Will Dawn Staley have a special defense set up for Caitlin Clark, or will she just let her go off and shut down the rest of her teammates? Pretty interesting dilemma because South Carolina, they play as a team. Lakeena, they really don't have a true superstar. They play as a team. They play as one on both ends on the floor. You can have Caitlin Clark go off, and she's a heck of a player, no doubt, but if no one else is helping her out, you're going to lose the majority of the time. But that's anybody in any sport.
Well, yeah, I think the formula is there. I think because I've seen their Iowa 6 losses have been kind of like on both ends. It really it's gonna depend. I think some teams kind of showed you that how they're gonna stop her. I mean, I know K-State edged them out a couple of months ago during one of the holiday tournaments. Talking about Iowa. Remember Illinois beat them. They upset them in Champaign about a little over a month ago. So it can be done. And I think, like you said, I think it's really gonna depend on what this isn't Dawn Staley's first rodeo. So we'll see if what they use, what plan they use and such. So I'm looking at that Maryland game where Maryland just hammered Iowa in their home court, and Caitlin only scored 18 points, so it could happen. So and look, South Carolina can go about 9 or 10 deep, so it's gonna be interesting to see if South Carolina can kind of be, I mean, yeah, they can win Lamont, but again, you know what? If they can tame her, I mean, this is gonna be the best defense that Kayla's gonna be facing all year. So don't be shocked if this isn't being a blowout. I'm talking about South Carolina blows out Iowa like Maryland did a little bit over a month ago. So
yeah, I agree, but I'm taking South Carolina in this one. But I think it's gonna be a classic game. Hopefully, we'll get that tonight.
We'll see. As I can see, sports. I got LSU and South Carolina. I think we're gonna have an all SEC final. Much to the chagrin of some folks, I'm sure. But
you don't say.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. But as I can see, sports on Sports Show Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown, with you now. Sticking with the hockey thing. The Bruins, Boston Bruins, I should say. They pushed the President's Trophy. They with their win against the Blue Jays a couple of nights ago. That's a franchise record of 58 wins this season. That's ties for the most by set by the 1970-71 Brewers for most points. So is it really the Brewers? Stanley Cup is the Brewers to lose, and everyone else, or can they? I don't know.
Like I said, it seems that way on paper, but I know those Bruins players are being reminded by their fans right now, as the regular season comes to a close less than a couple weeks or a week or two from now, that the regular season, it doesn't matter. Once the clock once that first day of the playoffs hits, it doesn't matter what you did in the regular season. So all it is about the second season. And we talked about this, mentioned this, Lakeena, for the last couple of weeks. It looks like the Washington Capitals may not make it to the playoffs. I'm still cheering for them to get in, but you still have the Islanders, the Florida Panthers, who's starting to get hot. Matthew Tkachuk, I still remember his daddy playing. That shows my age. But regardless of that, you still have the Florida Panthers in there, the Rangers in there, the New Jersey Devils.
The Rangers have clinched a spot. They clinched a spot a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, but so you got all those teams in the middle of the Eastern Conference. They're jockeying for a position. They can give Boston a run. So it's not. If people think it's going to be an easy path for Boston to make it to the Stanley Cup Final, they're crazy. Not saying they can't get there, but we all know the playoffs are a different animal. And I just named you about 4 or 5 teams that can give Boston trouble. Don't forget about your Carolina Hurricanes as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they clinched a spot to Toronto. I mean, they clinched a spot from I'm sure for all the Canadian teams who get in because
you and Gary Bettman both.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be interesting. I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think the Brewers are gonna prance right through, steamroll everybody because, like you said, they got a lot. Look, anything can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've seen it happen before, so. I think I'm glad Bruins fans are reminding the Bruins that hey, look, slow it down. I know you scored 121 points already as we record this, but slow down. But it is what it is with that. Now in the Western Conference, it's still pretty much wide open. Well, other than the Blackhawks and the Coyotes and the Sharks and the Ducks, but they've all been eliminated. But I think only Vegas has clinched a playoff spot already. So I think the Wild can clinch a spot. I think tomorrow.
Their Western Conference is very much up for grabs. St. Louis was left for dead early in the year. They traded Vladimir Tarasenko. Minnesota Wild is there. I know they were eliminated for the playoffs last year in the first round, which was very disappointing. Like I said, Vegas, they trade for old man Jonathan Quick, but they actually picked up their play after that. Colorado, they started out slow. I know they're the defending Cup champs, but they started to turn around. Their Western Conference is going to be wide up. Of course, Edmonton, led by Connor McDavid, who's just having a hell of a year. He's your MVP, hands down, period, in the story. So we talk about the middle of the pack of the Eastern Conference that can challenge Boston, those 4 or 5 teams that I mentioned. That Western Conference this year is wide open. So it's
Everybody.
I'm not saying Colorado cannot make it back, but it's definitely not going to be easy for them.
Right. I mean, there are still a lot of spots other than, of course, I think the Knights are the only Western Conference team that have pushed a spot so far. Everyone else is still kind of like jockeying for positioning. So maybe could Seattle sneak in there? Look, a lot has to happen. Could they get one of those wild card spots? Maybe. Winnipeg could be another team that can sneak in there in one of the wild card spots. So there's still a lot to figure out in the Western Conference side of the NHL playoff picture.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're Friday Fun Friday, or however you want to look at it. I'm Sid, and that's Lakeena. We have a couple of minutes left. Lakeena, I'll just read you a couple of headlines, and we'll speed this up so we can boogie out of here and enjoy the weekend. This comes courtesy of our good friends from Awful Announcing. Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk says that sooner rather than later, we're going to have the NFL football on 7 days a week. Do you think that's even possible?
God. How?
I don't
think.
I know they're gonna get the Black Friday game next season in 2023. We talked about this I think on our last show, the show before that. That Thursday, the good folks at Amazon wants flex schedule for Thursday Night Football. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But can we see the NFL 7 days a week? I know your commissioner Goodell wants that, but I don't see that happening. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't see the players association. I don't even think the owners want that because you're talking about I know with all the weather issues and all the COVID issues a couple of years ago, they did have a couple of Tuesday, Wednesday games that actually rated well. That's probably where this is coming from. Do you really want to compete against college football? I don't think they want that. As a person who watches college football regularly, I don't want. Look, I like my Sundays, Mondays. If they want to keep Thursdays, fine, whatever. The Black Friday, okay, Amazon. You can have your Friday, your Black Friday game. But yeah, that just ended there. I think there is such a thing as too much NFL. So I think Florio, I read that article, Florio, you're talking about Florio. I think he might be a little off base here with a Tuesday game, or it just seems a little bit silly. But
yeah, you can say that college football has been operating that way for the last, I think, decade and a half, except for Mondays, of course, outside of the national championship game in January. But they play just about every day of the week. But that's College is different because you have
NCAA,
over 100,
NCAA.
120 programs in Division 1A. And so
Mhm.
that's different. But I don't see the NFL doing it. They want to do it, like you mentioned. They tried it a couple years ago during COVID, but it's like, nah.
Mm-mm. No. What's your other headline from then, real quick?
Oh, okay. Last headline before we close out. Travis is and our good friend Alan Sliwa. He's the pre and post game host for the Los Angeles Lakers on ESPN 710 in Los Angeles. Of course, they have a midday program, which I think they're on opposite of us right now on ESPN LA.
Yeah.
So go check it out if we get off of here. But Travis Rogers said this about the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Of course, Artie Moreno, their owner. He was going to put the club up for sale. He's like, nah, not yet, especially with the Bally Sports situation going on. We won't get into that here today. And of course, Shohei Ohtani, who's a free agent at the end of the year. The LA Angels said that their radio team, they were not the organization will not send them out for road games. And Travis Rogers said on his show yesterday with Alan Sliwa, that's a middle finger to your fan base. Thoughts?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're the only major team that. Well, actually, you know what? I actually see the couple of college teams, especially out in that area in California, SoCal, where you still see guys do a remote broadcast, whether it's football, men's and women's basketball. I think I have some volleyball matches. I know a good friend, Chris Vosters, who does a lot of the Big Ten stuff. Of course, he's the Blackhawks announcer for Chicago. He was still doing some of those remote broadcasts too. So I don't know if it was because maybe it's a money saver. I think at this point, that's probably what it is. It's not really about health or COVID and such. It's more of a money saver, I think. You don't have to take guys out. You just have the trucks there and such. You can kind of tell some of the difference, with the how they're filmed. Kind of like what kind of cameras they use and lavaliers and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I think it's a disservice to their fans not having their radio guys there. It just isn't formidable at this point. I mean, there's really no sense in doing that.
And also, too, listening to various announcers, whether it's TV or radio, we had a few of them on here on our program throughout the years.
Yes.
And I heard and hear many of them saying this commonality that it's nothing like calling a game where you're there live at center court or at the 50-yard line, where the sport you want to talk about. Sometimes you're like a Kevin Harlan, who's very energetic. Yes, you could do that from a TV screen, but it's nothing like being there right in front of the action. It just feels different. It sounds different, and it comes across our earbuds or on our TV screens and through the sound. And it's nothing like just being there live.
Well,
and that's the whole purpose of sports, right? In sports broadcasts, is just being there live.
Well, and I'll tell you a secret too. Well, I don't think it's really a secret unless you follow soccer, but not all. No, NBC actually has some of their people on. They have all of them on site because most of those guys they actually have played in those areas like Tottenham and Liverpool and Manchester. So they're there now. For years though, when ESPN had the Premier League and I think Fox had it when Fox had the Premier League. Well, and then the Fox Sports Soccer, the old Fox Sports Soccer, they didn't have their people on site. But you couldn't tell. Now nowadays you can kind of tell if they're on site or not. And so depending on how they're directing it. So it's gonna be So this is a service to the Angels, and look, you got Ohtani and Mike Trout on there. One or both might be gone before the summer's over with. So it may be kind of redundant, but that's interesting. Yeah, I saw that. I saw someone. I think Busciami tweeted that, and I think he said the same thing. Like, well, this is just a disservice to the Angels fans, and I think he's right, and I think everyone else is right as well. So that's tough.
Yeah, and also too, another big secret. I think they still do it now, minus this last past summer and Winter Olympics. Many of those events outside of track and field and basketball and swimming, some of those events are done by some of those announcers in studio as well too. People didn't know about that for many years.
Right. Well, yeah, they did. Like I said, they did it for years in the Olympics, even before COVID. So
that's my point.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
I was just saying they was doing it. Like I said, that's what I said. Minus these last past Olympics, some, not all, but some of those events the announcers were in studio doing them as well.
Right.
So, like I said, this ain't nothing new, but just information and all this other stuff has been coming out for the last several years or so.
Yeah, it's a little nutty, but I think the same thing, that they do in the previous Olympics. I think they do it for costs and such. That
Mhm.
especially back then, especially you could tell it like the '90s and 2000s, especially in the Winter and Summer Olympics. Like you said, especially with figure skating and all the
Mhm.
basketball, gymnastics, skiing, all the big events. They're on site, but most of them, some of them were kind of like in a studio. You just couldn't tell. So sorry, I think we might have let a couple of secrets out.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, but yeah, that's tough for Angels fans because that's I know that they're big in the community and such. They're radio guys, so
Mhm.
that's tough that they gotta do it again. For no other reason more just a cost. It's a cost thing. That's all it is. Especially with the stuff going on with Diamond Sports and those type of things. So that might be another
Yeah.
factor too.
Yeah, it's really a shame, but those guys who are persevering, they'll do their job and bring the best product to the Angels fans listening on the radio and on their app.
Right, absolutely. And real quick before we disperse, this came across the wires. The NBA and NBA PA have table minimum age. This discussion, the latest CBA talk. So there are some rumors that they may do away with the 19 year age limit. Now looks like they're tabling it for right now for the CBA. So all right, I guess
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I think the CBA. I know the media rights deal is up in a couple of years. Isn't the
right
CBA up at the same time as well?
right about the same time.
Same
Yeah.
time, yeah. So they say they may not do anything for now, but don't be surprised that that's one of the main issues going forward as they're negotiating. Because the only reason why I say that is because LeBron James' son, Bronny Jr., he's going to be eligible in a couple of years. I know he's
So
trying to pick out colleges now, but it's going to be a hot issue. So I know the NBA wants to put it on the back burner for now, but I guarantee you, they're not careful with this. This is going to be one of the major issues going forward. Besides, and also low management is going to be right up there as well because these owners are not happy with your stars sitting out these games, especially the ones that aired on TNT and ESPN. That's going to be another hot issue as well.
well, yeah, and it's LeBron's other son, Bryce, who's a sophomore, I believe, and he's getting a lot of
It's
buzz
going to be
too.
more
So
affecting him.
going to be affecting him more than Bronny. So I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Bronny minds. I think he has said he wants to play college hoops. So that I don't think that's really going to be an issue for him. I think Bryce is probably the one that you
Mm-hmm.
probably got to think about down the line. So all right, we'll see what happens. Lamar Jackson wants to trade. Okay, wait, it's not happening. And I know people want to say, oh, the Raiders are. But look, stop, just stop. My head hurts. It's becoming
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers annoying at this point. Get you an agent. I know people say you got smart people. Well, they're not that smart. He's no, stop talking. Stop talking. I'm just saying.
Well, you listen to Kyle Hurd today because him and Jason McIntyre both said the same thing, and we've been saying it for the last couple
We've
of
been
weeks.
saying it. We've been saying it for like the last month.
Yeah, get an agent. That's all we have to
Get an
say.
agent,
And
that's all we have to say.
I was just say big cats like Kyle Hurd and Jason McIntyre, who I was listening to before we went on today, basically said the same thing. You don't want to deal with the headache. You just have to worry about playing if you're Lamar Jackson. Just worry about playing. That's it. The other people take care of the other stuff behind the scenes. That's what they're there for. We'll leave it at that.
Exactly. And on that note, you follow me at Keith McGee on the Twitter and at Kenneth McGee on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's War Media PODCASTS. And we're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you are at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Make sure you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, exclusively right here on Sports Zone Chicago from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. One more again, as the kids would say. You can catch Second City Sports live in 11 color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you can check us out anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
Roku TV.
just if you got a Roku TV or Roku TV app on your smart devices, whatever you got, or your laptop or Chromebook or smartphone, wherever you got, just type in Sports on Chicago on on that, on your Google or Apple, whatever Play Store that you got. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and What's Up, Cousin? The Smoke Fellas are going to have some stuff coming up tomorrow with the Final Four, right before the Final Four. So make sure you guys check them out. And yeah, so anytime you want, it's right there for you.
And we can provide.
Oh Lord, we had to get that out there before the break. So yeah, so of course, our thanks to Larry Holly from WGN TV. You can catch all his videos on WGN TV and on WGN TV's Facebook page and such. I'm sure the YouTube channel as well. And Sid, you're going to be going to the Sox opener on Monday.
Oh, thanks for blowing in my cover.
Well, people are going to know where you are, so you might as well know where you're at. So,
yes, this is going to be on a special mission on Monday. So, yeah, so Lakeena and who's going to replace me will keep you company on Monday. So, make sure you still tune in and support.
Absolutely, and of course, hopefully, Sid, hopefully with Sid being there this last one playing, hopefully they'll be in a good spot, to win that that game against the Guardians on Monday. But but with that said,
no, San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, the Giants. I'm sorry, my bad. I was thinking back. I was looking at the Guardians first. The score for the Guardians. The Giants. Yeah, that should. But that should be a fun one though, nonetheless. Of course, everyone played each other this year, so that should be a good one regardless. Should be a good series there. So even still, for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second Stage Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and I'll see you Monday. We'll see Sid next week.
Go Sox! Till then, holla!